Finance, right? Who's got a financial goal they're willing to share, just to start it out with? What you got, Pearson? What's that? Save 30 grand. Why do you want to save 30 grand? For school, so you can pay for school without having to go into debt? That's a good goal. What you got, Stuart?
1 year, 5 years.
Any goal, any financial goal.
10 years, maybe 45.
So I've actually got a slide later on that'll show you how much interest you're actually going to pay on some of this stuff if you're staying in debt and paying on these credit cards and stuff like that. But that's a good goal. Pay off your house, own your house. You own it free and clear, except for a one-time cash tax payment once per year, and you don't have to worry about if you lose your job, the bank's going to come after you because you can't pay your mortgage and all this other stuff, and then you could lose your house, which you've already dumped 50 grand in. What you got, Montgomery? Yeah. Yeah, so equity's a good goal to have in your house, but we'll talk more about houses and stuff later. So go ahead and kick it, Spartelli. All right, so these are the resources I use to make this. I've read a few different financial books since I've been here, but these two are so far the most noteworthy for me. For my goal is to be a lot better off than where I started out when I was a kid. So I don't come from very wealthy beginnings or anything like that. I never thought I would ever even go to college, and here I am doing my master's degree. I'm somehow making it, and a lot of this stems because I'm kind of stingy with my money, but I'm setting goals for myself. So yeah, I'm stingy with my money because I'm not going out and buying Taco Bell every night, but it's for a reason. It's because if I go and buy $100 worth of Taco Bell every month, that's $100 less that I can take away from the debt that I owe so that I can be free and clear. All right, next slide. All right, so these are the things we're going to talk about. First, I'll just give you a quick little overview. Next, I'm going to talk about your income and financial knowledge, financial IQ, whatever you want to call it. Then we'll talk about why you should have an emergency fund, what constitutes an emergency fund. We'll talk about debt and credit. We'll talk about the credit score a little bit because I know some of you guys are curious about what goes into your credit score and why it's important to have a good one, which if you talk in depth to me, I'll tell you it's really not important to have a great credit score, but we'll talk about it anyway. The next thing we'll talk about is how to protect your family with your finances, what you can do to make your money make money. And then after that, finally, after you've gone through all of those bottom rungs of the ladder, so to speak, you're at the top rung, where you're literally you're paying yourself because you've got extra money, so you're paying yourself spending money, more of an allowance than what you have right now. Like my allowance per month for personal spending is about $150. What could I do if I had $1,500 worth of personal spending money? I could go buy a boat, I could buy a four-wheeler, I could do all that stuff. But I don't do it right now because I can't afford it. So go ahead. So I like this picture a lot because if you guys can read any of those license plates or whatever they are, signs on the ground, it talks about failure, problems, fear, risk. Those are all things that we have in our lives that prevent you from being financially successful. Maybe you're afraid of taking that money and putting it into a savings account instead of, going out and having the best car. Instead of buying the car for $1,000, you go ahead and you buy a car payment that's only $300 a month because it feels safer because you're spending less money on that car per month type of thing. So Crisis. Everybody has a financial crisis in their life. Mine was when I got off the active duty. I didn't have a job right away. For about 4 months, I didn't have a job, and I was like, oh crap, I need to learn how to make money. I was going to school and stuff like that, so I was getting a little bit of financial income, but that was my personal crisis when I got active duty. I didn't know what to do. The only thing I ever knew was the military, and I had no idea where I was going to get a job. I didn't even know how to write a resume. All right, kick it. All right, anybody have a car loan? Who's willing to tell me how much a month it is? Just a couple. $277 a month. What you got? 6 what? 1,000 a month. Wow. Tripping. Last one. 55? $355 a month. Okay. All right, imagine having that money going into your pocket every month. Just stew on that a little while. All right, how about student loans? Who's got student loans already currently taken out? Are you paying on them yet? How much a month? 130, that's not bad. 560? Okay. So student loans are another big one. Yeah. Is anybody happy? I know we're here right now, and you probably feel like your civilian job might pay you more than what you're getting paid to be on active duty right now. But as far as your civilian job, who's happy with how much money they're making right now? Okay. Who wants to make more than that? Just about everybody. All right. And who wants more spending money at the end of the month? Everybody, right? So we're going to talk about ways to get there. Go ahead. All right, so it's a little bit cut off on that side, but it says financial freedom starts with a strong foundation. You wouldn't build a skyscraper on a foundation that you put your little 2-story, 4-bedroom house in the suburbs on, would you? No, you want that sucker deep and big. If Trump was to say it, it'd be the hugest foundation, the biggest beautiful foundation you could possibly find in a tower, right? That's where you want your base right here. Build up your income and financial knowledge. And then the next step is covering emergencies without going into credit debt. You don't need a credit card to cover an emergency. You want an emergency fund, that's cash. Next step is to stay out of debt. Some will argue a little bit of debt's good for you and it builds your credit and stuff like that, but overarching theme, you want to stay out of debt as much as you can. Probably the most acceptable debt that I would say is your home mortgage. Everything else, that's all stuff you can cover with cash if you're smart about it. Next is protecting your family. Then up from there, once you have all of those things covered, then you start finding ways to make your money work for you, which is, some of you guys are doing it already. Some of you guys have stocks. You're playing on the Robinhood app and whatever else. There's other things out there. There's bonds, there's small businesses, there's all kinds of stuff. And then the very top, that's when you're paying yourself, enjoying the rewards, buying a Porsche or whatever, buying a yacht, whatever you want to do with all of this extra money that you have because all of your bases are covered and you're making a lot more money because you're not having leaks in the boat. You don't have cash flowing out as you're trying to rake cash in from your job or your business or whatever you're doing. Go ahead. All right, so first thing, income and financial knowledge. Most powerful tool in your toolbox to make yourself richer is your job. For one, even if it's a low-paying job, you can still enrich yourself by being smart about where you're spending your money. And the next thing, financial knowledge, that's, like I said, that's knowing where your money's going, but it's also knowing how to make your money do some work for you. Go ahead. All right, so income. Some of you guys already have jobs, maybe you don't want to move. Some of you guys were happy with your jobs, some of you guys are not. But you can't just go and say, yeah, I'm going to be a nurse, and start taking a couple little classes, little certifications online. Maybe that'll help you get there. But you don't want to just say, I want to become a nurse. You want to say, how do I become a nurse? Talk to an expert. Talk to somebody at a college. Talk to a nurse friend of yours that'll tell you step by step how to get there. when you ask yourself, how do I do this? It's a lot more empowering for you than I just want to be something. Next thing is, yeah, maybe you want to be a nurse, but if you live out in the middle of nowhere where there's no hospital, there might not be a market for it. So you need to research not only the industry you want to work in, but you need to research it in the area you want to live in. I just put right here, if you can't see it, it says no market equals no jobs. If there's no jobs in nursing in that region, you can't really be a nurse. You could do like travel nursing maybe. There's maybe ways you could do it, but it's not going to be as lucrative as something that's always in demand. You want to be your job, your industry that you're in, the more demand there is for that job, the higher paying it's going to be. That's how supply and demand works in economics, not only for labor, but for widgets and whatever else you want to call it. Like I said on the previous slide, your income is the most powerful tool you have financially. You need to protect your income from leaks. That's why I put on here no frivolous spending. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying like Taco Bell, and maybe you can get by on the 500 megabyte data plan per month, but you want to pay the extra $30 a month for the gigabyte or whatever. Things like that are small little leaks in your boat. But if you're spending $30 here, $20 here, $15 here, soon enough, you're spending $100 on things that you don't need to spend the money on. Your money is worth more than what you can buy with it. That's true just about everywhere. Now, if you feel like your $7 Frappuccino from Starbucks is worth more than that $7 over the course of adding that $7 together with another $7 and accruing interest on it over the course of 20, 30 years, you're crazy. Now, I'm not saying you can't buy a Frappuccino from Starbucks, but that comes out of your one time a month allotment, and an allowance, if you will. If you give yourself an allowance, that's your frivolous spending money. But don't just, oh, I've got a few $100s in my account, why not just spend it? That's not really a good plan. You want to know where every dollar is going. Learn everything you can about how to build your wealth. I'm talking about you building your own wealth for your retirement, not Social Security, not your military pension plan. Those things, they're there, yeah, but they're iffy. If anybody's been reading the news about Social Security, they're talking about doing Social Security reforms. Your Social Security might be worth less later on, or worthless. Same thing with your pension. What happens if the government defaults on its debt? Or what if your company that you're getting your pension for defaults on its debt? That's happened. Anybody know anything about the steel industry collapsing? A lot of people were living off of pensions. Steel workers, they retired and 10 years later their pension is gone. The company spent all the money, steel went down because of cheaper imports, and all of those pensions were gone. So that's why I'm saying you need to plan for your own financial future. Don't let your job or the government tell you they're going to take care of you without planning something for yourself. All right, the last thing, we already talked about it a little bit. A couple of you gave me some goals, but you got to have a goal. You got to have a goal on where your income is going and how are you going to get there. Ask the how question, not the I wanna. And then this little graph is straight from USAA. Basically, it starts with know where you're at, know where your money needs to go, create a plan, make any adjustments if you have an emergency, whatever, and then it's just a continuous cycle. You want to do this? I sit down with my wife, even here, we talk about it every 2 weeks. What's our budget for the next month? Go on. Okay, financial knowledge. These are the things that I think are the most beneficial for you to learn about. I'm not going to tell you everything about these things because I'm still learning too. But this is what you need to do your own independent research on. Figure out how compound interest works, how it works for you and against you. Because while you're trying to build your 401k with compound interest, the banks are trying to make money off of using the compound interest trick on you. That's where credit cards come from. Know the difference between assets and liabilities. Learn how to protect your money from taxes and frivolous spending. Learn how to make investments. You got stocks, bonds, mutual funds. You can be a Shark Tank guy and give somebody 50 grand to go start a business, and you got 50% ownership in the business. You know, just a few things you could do. And learn to pay yourself first. Paying yourself first doesn't mean pay yourself an allowance so you can go buy whatever you want to buy. You need to pay into your retirement. That's where paying yourself comes from. Go on to the next slide. All right, so this is just a little tidbit on compound interest. There's more to it than that, but the simplified version is when you have compound interest, like in a 401k, that month you earn 7% on your investment. That 7% goes on top of the whole sum of money, and then the next month they do the whole sum of money times 8% interest, whatever it earns that month. So it keeps adding the interest to the top, and you gain interest on your interest. That's what compound interest means. So this is compound interest working for you. That's like a standard kind of graph looking at like what a mutual fund or a 401k would do. So the higher the interest, the more you're going to make. This example, I think it was investing $100 per month. Is that what it says for that? $100. Okay, so that's $100 per month, starting from year 1 to 45 years out, which if you're 20 years old and you retire at 65, that's a possibility. $100 per month, investing it, it gains 9% compound interest, that's the top, and the bottom is 4.5% interest. If you did the same investment, $100 per month, the 4.5% interest, that's like if you have everything in the G fund. You guys know what the G fund is in TSP? The safest one, it only gains 2 to 4% interest. It's like a step up above a savings account. It's safe, yeah, but it's not going to make you a whole lot of money. Now, if you're young and you can afford to leave your money invested for 40 years, if you had it in the riskiest one, I'll tell you right now, my TSP, I want to say in like December, my whole last year, I have it all in the riskiest stuff, and I gained about 17% over that year on my money that's in my TSP. So this is 9%. You're talking about $175,000 compared to $750,000. That's the difference. So yeah, you want to play it safe, you want to mitigate risk, but risk is kind of relative. Risk is kind of inherent to being a short-term thing, not so much a long-term thing. If you leave your money in there over a long period of time, you're mitigating the risk. Because if you look at the stock market from, let's say, 1900 until 2010, yeah, there's some V's in there where it crashed a couple times, but generally, it's thousands of times higher, right? All right, so money work or compound interest working against you. This is a credit card up top, and this is a standard fixed rate loan on the bottom. So if you had $17,000 in credit card debt at 18%, you paid $595 a month, it would take you 17 years to pay it off. And you'd pay $12,500 over the course of that 17 years for that one purchase of $17,000 or that one credit card. That's the difference. So, like if you're going to buy a vehicle, don't buy it with a credit card. Don't buy anything really with a credit card unless you absolutely need to. If you get a fixed rate loan at 18% interest, which a fixed rate loan is usually going to be a lot less than that, like 7% interest, maybe 8% tops. You're only going to pay $5,300 in interest over 3 years for the same monthly payment. That's the difference. Anybody know why that is? A credit card charges you compound interest daily on what you owe, compared to a fixed rate loan which does compound interest monthly. So that's why you don't want to fall into the credit card trap. If you're using the credit card smartly to get the points, I can see your point. You know, spend $500 on groceries, pay it off at the end of the month. That's cool. I can live with that. All right, next slide. So, assets and liabilities. It's not about how much you earn, but how much you keep. That's true for retirement. The more money you keep in a retirement account, the larger it's going to grow. The more money there is to charge interest to add it to the top, the more interest you're going to gain the next month. So this is out of Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's a really interesting book. It's kind of blunt. It can be a little bit offensive. I thought a couple things were a little bit offensive in there because I thought my house was a good asset to have, but that book will humble you. And it's right though. So here's the income statement for a poor person. As you can see on the balance sheet, they don't have anything in the asset column. On the expenses column, they're paying taxes, they're paying rent, they're buying food, they got to pay for transportation, they got to pay for clothes. All the income that they're paying is paying for all of those things. They're living paycheck to paycheck, literally. They don't have anything of their own. If you're in that situation, you need to figure out how to get out of it. And part of that is just by keeping some of your money. Middle class situation. So some middle class, you might have a little bit in the assets column. Maybe you've got a couple of stocks, a couple of bonds, or whatever the case may be. But overall, your income is coming solely from your job, which that's where a lot of us are. That's where I'm at right now, minus a couple little things. So your liabilities, you got a mortgage, a car loan, a credit card debt, a school loan. So if you can see this kind of hook right here, it goes job. That's your income. It goes down in the liabilities column. Your liabilities are part of your expenses. All the money's going out. At the end of the month, you don't have any money kind of left in your account. Now, a rich person, right? You got all these things in the assets column. Your assets are real estate, stocks, bonds, notes. IOUs is basically what a note is. Like if you own a house and you rent it to somebody, or you sell it to somebody, you can actually sell it to somebody instead of going through a bank, and they'll pay you the rent. You know, it'll hold up in court as long as you do the document right, all of that thing. That's what a note is. Intellectual property, that's like, you know, if you want to be the next, I don't know, who's popular, Miley Cyrus, whatever, you write songs, you sell your songs, every time they play the song, you get a penny, or whatever. Royalties, you can write a book, you know, nobody's perfect, nobody's the most creative, but if you are into wanting to get some intellectual property, those are how you get intellectual property. So you can notice right here in the liabilities column, he's got mortgage, consumer loans, and credit cards, but the only thing in the expenses column up here is taxes and the mortgage. Anybody know why that could be? Because he's got a company. So a lot of his personal expenses are charged to the company. I'll show you guys how to do that later on. But in his income column, look, he's got rental properties, he's got dividends from his stocks, he's got interest being paid on his notes and his bonds that he's got, and he's got royalties. So that's just a simple cut and dry breakdown. It can be more complicated than this, but this kind of makes sense. All right, go on. All right, assets, we've already said, stocks, bonds, real estate, owning a business, and intellectual property, a book, music. You can sell designs. You know, if you have a design for furniture or something, and you sell it to a company and they mass produce that furniture, you get royalties on it. Liabilities, that's your home mortgage, your car payment, your credit cards, student loans, and all other bills, electrical, whatever. All right. Someone asked this question. Kennedy, go ahead. No, Kennedy, your home is not an asset. Go ahead. Why? Because it doesn't make you any money. Not until you sell it. Then you got to buy another house, or you got to rent a house. So yeah, everybody thinks that, oh, a home is your greatest asset. Kind of. You can get equity in it. But what happened in Phoenix, Arizona in 2008, 2009? Well, really the whole country, right? It tanked. A lot of businesses moved out of Phoenix, specifically. Phoenix, those people that own houses there are just now getting their house value back to where it was when they bought their houses. So, that's why your home is not an asset. Go ahead. All right, enough on that. Emergency funds. So, really an emergency fund, like I said, it should not be a credit card. You shouldn't have an emergency credit card. Because what does a credit card do? compound interest. Every day that you owe something on a credit card, you're accruing compound interest on it. Go ahead. All right, so emergencies happen to everybody, right? But what's worse is having a second emergency because you just dropped $2,000 on a credit card and you can't afford the new $120 a month payment that you got on that credit card. So, in an emergency situation, you never use a credit card unless you absolutely cannot help it. You never do a payday loan. A payday loan is just as bad as a credit card, if not worse, because they're going to come after you a lot more than the credit card company. At least a credit card company, you can complain to the Better Business Bureau, and they might give you a plan to not make payments for so many months, and they'll hook you up, and they'll play nice. But those payday lenders, they're not going to do that. They're going to come after your car. Go ahead. A payday loan is, you get paid every 2 weeks, right? So you're expecting your next paycheck's going to be $1,500, but you need it right now. So you just got paid and you spent all your money on an emergency. You went to a payday lender. You got 2 weeks till your next paycheck. Another emergency happens. You can't pay back your payday loan. Then they start calling collections. They come after your car, your house, whatever it may be. Don't use a payday lender. If you don't know what it is, don't even research it. Don't even go to it. Don't look them up and don't even get tempted by it because it's BS. All right, so a good emergency fund, if you don't have a whole lot of money just yet, is $1,000 to $2,000. That'll fix your car, right? If your alternator goes out on the car, what's it going to cost? $300? Your kid has to go to the hospital. You got to pay a copay to get a cast put on. What's that going to be if you got health insurance? Maybe $400 or $500. So $1,000 to $2,000 is going to help you out. That'll get you out of a tight spot. After you don't have any more debt, though, you want a really good emergency fund built up of about 6 months. That way, if you lose your job, you can float yourself until you can find another job. Things like that. So 6 months. Let's say your monthly bills are $2,000. Your emergency fund, $12,000 cash in the bank, liquid, that you can spend at a moment's notice. That's your 6-month emergency fund. All right, go for it. All right, so get out of debt and stay out of debt. This little guy is trying to climb up on the rock, but he's got a debt ball hanging off his leg. Not too smart, right? Now, I know Spardella can do 20 pull-ups if he doesn't have all that debt driving him down. So, go ahead. All right, well, what about good debt? There's really not a good debt. Debt's not evil, and it's not good. Debt is debt. It's an idea that we invented as human beings. Hey, I'm going to let you borrow $100, but you got to pay it back. That's all that debt is. But I need a new car. No, you need to get a car that's new to you. You can get a used car. It's new to you, right? Maybe you got a 2012 Honda Civic instead of a 2020. But you paid cash for it, and now you don't have a $250 a month car payment or a $500 a month car payment. That gives you more money at the end of the month to pay yourself so that you can go and do things that you want to do and save for your future. I need to take out student loans because there's no other way to go to school. Well, there is. All of you guys have one up on typical people who've never been in the military. You got Go Army Ed, you got NC TAP, you got GI Bill, all those things. Maybe they won't pay all for your school. Maybe you still owe $400 or $500 at the end of each month. Get a part-time job. But if you take out those student loans, they're going to come back for you. And the more money you make, the more they want per month. I need to have a credit card so that I can handle an emergency. But we just talked about emergencies. You don't need a credit card. You just need a couple $1,000s in the bank that you can handle an emergency with, that you don't touch. An emergency is not going out and buying a PS5 because you're worried they're going to sell out. Yeah, there's one. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it saved me a couple times. My wife's dogs had to go into the hospital to get her teeth pulled out. It cost me $300. And if I didn't have an emergency fund, you know, I'd be putting it on a credit card. So, all right. I need to build my credit score so that I can have a high credit score. Credit score is like a new fad. It's like a cool thing to have a high credit score right now. Anybody know why that is? Because you see commercials about it all the time. They market it. These credit bureaus and these credit cards are like, yeah, if you sign up for this card, we'll give you free 1-year premium membership to creditkarma.com or whatever the case may be. And you see these TV commercials about, oh man, my credit score is only 540. I guess I got to drive this clunker. And then the next person's got a 780 and they can go buy a brand new 4Runner. They're marketing it to you. That's what marketing does. It puts an idea in your head that something's cool. Now, it is good to have a good credit score. I'm not going to tell you not to have a good credit score. But a lot of that just comes from having a lot of time. If you're 22 years old and you've only got a 650 credit score, it's not a big deal. It comes from history of paying your bills on time. That's what builds your credit score for the most part. All right, go ahead. So this is what constitutes a credit score, right? I believe it goes to 800, right? I don't pay that much attention to it. I don't really care too much for my credit score unless I'm going to buy a house or whatever. So, but this is what I was talking about. Payment history is 35% of your credit score. So if you pay your bills on time and you've been living a while, you're already going to have a pretty high credit score. 10% is new credit. So like if you go out and get a house, that's gonna go kind of positively for you. It just depends on where your credit is, because it can also make it negative. So yeah, 10% is affected. Sometimes if you take out a credit card, your credit score the next month will drop by 20 points or something like that, because they're like, oh, this guy's getting ready to spend. So it just depends. It depends on who you are, how long of a credit history you have, about how these things affect you when you get new credit. Types of credit used, that's kind of the same thing. If you got a house, you got a credit card, and you got a car, you got 3 different types of credit. It's going to look more positively than somebody who just has a car payment. So, and then your length of credit history is 15% total. So like I said, if you've been living a while, that's a big chunk of your credit score is how long have you been using credit. The next biggest chunk is debt, the amount owed. That doesn't mean that the more you owe, the better your credit's going to be. It's how much credit have you been extended versus how much you owe on it. So if you're maxed out everywhere, your credit score is going to drop. But if you owe $200,000 because you got a mortgage and a car payment, and you only owe 50 on it, you only got like 30%, 25% of your credit that you're using. So it looks good. So really, being more out of debt helps you with your credit. All right, so credit score. If you've never got your credit score before, I would advise that you at least get it once per year. And you can get it for free from any of these 3 credit bureaus: Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. They can give you a free credit score once per year. It's mandated by law. You don't have to buy a $40 a month credit monitoring program from any of those 3 companies, because they're going to try to sell them to you to be able to get a free credit report. Has anybody seen their credit report before? Do you know how to read it? Did you understand it? Okay, that's good. Pretty much the biggest thing you're looking for on there isn't your credit score and how high it is. It's you're making sure that somebody didn't go out and open a credit card in your name accidentally. I've had it happen before. I had a Kohl's credit card, the clothing store, whatever it is. I don't go to Kohl's. So when I saw that credit card on there, I was like, what the heck is all that? It was like $4,000. somebody had opened it up, but they punched the social security number in wrong, and they put it on mine. So that person was using the credit card and maxing it out, and somehow it worked. And it was on my credit report, even though it wasn't my credit card. And it took me probably 8 months to get that sucker off of there. Of arguing, scanning photo IDs. I had to get a letter from my commander, all kinds of stuff, to prove that I had a job and that I didn't live in Asheville when I was living in Cherry Point. All this crap. So you're looking for inaccuracies and you're looking for identity theft issues. Another thing that happened on my credit report. So before I knew that I had to look after my own credit, I had been deployed a few times. Guess what happened? Back in the day, what was on your CAT card? Social security number. Luckily, they don't do that anymore. But I lost my wallet traveling between Iraq and the United States. And 5-6 years later, I was getting collections calls and all this stuff every month. I was like, what the heck is going on? Somebody had jacked and used my ID, scanned it in. And they had opened credit cards. They even took out a mortgage in my name. And they didn't pay crap. My credit score was down to like 530. It was low. I don't know if it even goes into the 400s. I think it stopped somewhere. But it was low. And I was fighting to get that thing rectified. And it took me like 2 years. My wife, she had to buy our first house on her own name without me co-signing because I was destroying the interest rate. If it was me signing on it, my interest rate was going to be like 6%. And we needed to put a down payment and all this other stuff. So look after your credit report. That's all I got to say about that. Don't get a whole lot of debt, but it is good to manage it properly. Good? Alright. Why should I pay off my debt? It's only so much per month. It's cheaper for me per month than it is to just pay a whole couple $1,000. Well, so if you're paying the minimum on your credit card, 18% interest, that's pretty typical. For somebody in their mid-20s, that's pretty typical. 16 to 20% interest. It's not until you have a really good credit history that they'll start lowering it into the 10s. So if you just pay the minimum payment on your credit card, it's only $3,000 that you made a purchase. You're going to pay $6,300 over 22 years to pay that off if you just pay the minimum payment. If you pay $10 extra a month on your credit card, it's only going to take you 11 years, but you're still going to pay double of what you actually made a purchase of. If you pay $20 a month extra, it's only $2,000, and it's going to take you 7.8 years. I'm going to tell you that if you're paying $20 a month on a credit card extra, you can do a little bit better than that. You want to get rid of a credit card as quick as you can because it's daily compound interest. All right, next slide. Same question. All right, so this is, if you read Dave Ramsey, he calls it the debt snowball. If you read, this came from that USAA help package that they have published on their website. They call it debt stacking. It's the same thing. So somebody in this room could have this scheme of what they owe, right? He's got one credit card that's $220 a month, one that's $350 a month, a car payment that's $550 a month, another credit card of $300 a month, and then your mortgage is almost $1,300 a month. So basically, debt snowball, debt stacking, whatever you want to call it, is the same thing across the board. But basically, he's trying like heck to pay off that first credit card of $220 a month. As soon as it's paid off, hey, the minimum payment's only $350 a month. Why should I pay more? Well, because now you've got $570 you can pay on that credit card, and you could get through this whole stack of debt that you have by rolling your debt against the next one. And then when you get to the end and all you have is a mortgage payment, you got $1,500 extra a month of spending money that you could put into a 401k, or you could put into a savings account and save it for a year so you can buy the machinery to start your own business. Or you can just, freaking 70's got an idea to start this new web company, and you think he's got a great idea and he's going to make it. You loan 70 $10,000 for half of his company, and he turns into the next Mark Zuckerberg. Possible. Yeah, so Capital One offers, I think it's like a 1.8 or 2% interest savings account. That's pretty good. That's way better than what I got on my Navy Federal one. It's only like 0.2%, something like that. That doesn't beat inflation. Everybody know what inflation is? Inflation is every year, right? The value of your money loses about 2%. So your $2,000 is only really worth like $950 at the end of the year, because the prices of everything are going up, because the economy's growing and there's more taxes, and as the things get more expensive, the taxes get more expensive and things like that. That's kind of how inflation works on a global scale. And then this thing over here, it kind of just talks about why you should use your debt when you pay off something to pay off your other debts. So if you just paid the minimum payment on everything in this scenario, it's not 100% accurate to true life, but it is pretty close. If you just paid everything down by itself, it's going to take you 23 years to pay off everything. And over those 23 years, you're going to pay $200,000 in interest to the banks that own the credit cards, that own your mortgage loan, all of that stuff. You're going to pay them interest because you're borrowing their money. If you do debt snowball or debt stack and you pay everything off, as soon as something's paid off, you roll that into the next one, you have everything paid off in 9 years. You will avoid $130,000 worth of interest, which means you've only paid $80,000 worth of interest total compared to $200-something thousand. So that's the power of compound interest working against you right there. Go ahead. All right, protecting your family. Now, I'm not saying you got to be a hero and have a katana in your closet so you can protect your family. I'm talking about financially. How do you protect your family financially? All right, so insurance is how you do it. You want to get term life insurance that if you were to be driving down the road, right, and get in a car accident, who's been in a bad car accident before? It happens. Is there a chance that you couldn't have walked away from that accident? Yeah, absolutely. It happens all the time. More people die from car accidents than anything else in the United States per year. So you want to be able to protect your family, especially if you're the main breadwinner, right? Shipley brings home the bacon. Her husband watches the kids and feeds the dog and plants tomatoes or whatever. She's bringing home all the money. So if Shipley goes away and she's making 50 grand a year and he's making nothing, he's left with whatever's in their savings account. So you get life insurance to cover that. Good life insurance for us specifically, since we are in the National Guard, SGLI. Do you think $400,000 would float your husband and let him plant tomatoes for a few years while he figures out what job he wants? Yeah, probably. At least pay off the house so there's no debt, so there's no holes in the boat anymore. Other insurance companies, USA, that's where my wife does her life insurance through, because she got in, like, I don't know, some special program where she got like 30% off for 5 years or something. I don't know. But USA is pretty good. They're pretty good with working with soldiers specifically. Lincoln Financial, that's who I do my extra life insurance through. Yes, I have 2 life insurances. I got my SGLI because it's super cheap. What is it, like $270 a month? Something like that? It's super cheap. Why not buy it? Now my Lincoln one, since I'm now in a hazardous duty zone, is like $150 a month. But as soon as I get back, it gets dropped down to like $60, $70 a month, because I'm a healthy guy with My blood pressure is always real low, and my wife thinks I'm dying when I'm sleeping because she can't feel my heartbeat. But the doctor thinks that's cool. So $60, $70 a month is a pretty good ballpark estimate for what you're going to pay for health insurance through a private company. Unless you're in a hazardous duty zone, like we are here. They're going to charge you extra because I could nail myself in the head with a fresh door or something. No, it's not here to get that. All right. General rule of thumb is 10 times whatever you make a year, that's what you want for your life insurance. I wanted a little bit more than that, so that's why I got 2. I'm not like a billionaire or anything, but I want my wife to be able to pay for the house completely and have money left over if I was to go. So that's why I got the extra health insurance, or life insurance. And the SGLI is so cheap, you really can't afford it. So that's kind of how you want to set yourself up. All right, so life insurance. Don't let them trick you. If you call somebody to get life insurance, don't let them talk you into this cash value, whole life, or universal life garbage. Because that's what it is. They're going to say, oh, you can make so much interest on your life insurance money. Well, does anybody know how whole life works? All right, so before you even get your death benefit from your whole life, you got to have a certain amount of money in your whole life insurance. So if you put in, say this year, you put in $300 a month because it's a lot more expensive than the term life. The whole life insurance, you put $300 a month in, so you paid $3,600 that year. So you paid $3,600 that year, whatever it is. Your insurance value is only like $2,000. Your policy is for, let's say, in the long run, $400,000 worth of life insurance. But you need to put in money to be able to even get that benefit. It takes you a few years just to get there. You have to have a certain percentage of your own cash money in there to pay for that insurance. So it takes a while to get the benefit. What if you bought the whole life and then 3 months down the road you did get into a bad car accident? There would be nothing there. Term life, as soon as you sign the policy letter, you've got $400,000 of insurance that goes to your family. Doesn't matter how much you put into it. Now what they're going to try to sell you on the whole life stuff is, oh, there's a cash value. Yeah, you're going to get $400,000 worth of life insurance, and you're going to have $100,000 in the account, and you can borrow that whenever you want. And it'll accrue 4% interest. So it's better than a savings account and all this cool stuff. And they're going to say, oh, you can do infinite banking. It's not really infinite. None of it's infinite. None of it's cool. All they're trying to do is get more of your money so that they can grow as a business and whatever else. It's not going to do much for you. Unless you're ultra rich and you can afford that account and you can afford to take the cash value out of it all the time and completely null the life insurance out because you have a different life insurance, it's not going to do anything for you. So don't fall for it. If you withdraw the cash from that account, let's say you have an emergency and you don't have a properly planned emergency fund, you withdraw the cash. As soon as you take cash out of that account, you don't get life insurance anymore. The cash is taken out. They don't owe you anything. Okay, so that's life insurance. Health insurance, you guys you have the privilege of serving in the U.S. military, so you got TRICARE. The best thing since sliced bread. Not really. We know that it's all, TRICARE can be a pain because you have to argue sometimes to get things paid for, but it is good insurance. And if you're in the National Guard, $220 a month for the family is pretty dang good health insurance. So unless your employer pays better than that, I would say probably stick with the Guard. As long as you're in the Guard. If you want to get out, that's fine. But it will pay off. The TRICARE is good. And don't fall for we won't cover that from TRICARE. If somebody calls you and says, oh, we aren't going to cover that, you're going to have to pay $300 out of pocket, they will pay it. And my wife can teach your wife or your husband how to complain so hard that they will pay it. They'll pay it, okay? So don't fall for that stuff. I know it's getting hot in here. We'll hurry it up. All right. Liability insurance, that really only applies if you own a business. Or like say, Clark, he's got a F-650. Do they make those? Is that a real truck? Okay.
Yes.
So he's got an F-650. He can haul anything across the country. And his business is he's going to take people's boats and he's going to work part-time taking people's boats from Newport News, Virginia, down to the Gulf so that they can go and do these marlin fishing tournaments, whatever. So he's making a couple grand a month during the summer. Now, Clark has boat and car insurance, but what happens if they go after him and his boat insurance, or the person that his boat that is getting hauled doesn't have the right insurance or something like that, and now they're coming after Clark because he was the transporter, not the karate guy. He's transporting the boat. They're going to come after Clark, and they're going to come after him for everything he's got, especially if somebody got their back paralyzed or whatever. They might take his house, they might take whatever. So Clark, being the smart guy that Clark is, he finds out that he needs to get umbrella liability insurance to cover him because he's starting a small business, and if that business takes a hit, at the very least, even though he can't do business anymore, the insurance covered it, and he doesn't lose his house or his car or whatever else they come after. That's what liability insurance really is. And yes, you don't even need to be in business to have liability insurance. You can get liability insurance that'll cover somebody falling and tripping and breaking their knee in your yard because they chased their dog in there when they were coming after your cat. And people get sued for all kinds of stupid reasons. I'm not saying everybody needs to get liability insurance. I'm just saying think about it if you're thinking about starting your own business, and especially if you have people coming to your house to do business, like if you have a home office or whatever, if they're coming to your house to do business, it might be worth it to get a $20 a month, $100,000 liability insurance policy in case anything happens, right? This is a good quote. I know Warren Buffett, he's hated by a lot of people because he stole everybody's money because he's so rich and blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot more rich people than Warren Buffett. But this is a good quote. If you don't find a way to make your money work for you while you sleep, you'll work until you die. That's kind of true. How many jobs are out there to where you can make $1 million a year of salary to where you don't have to worry about it? Even doctors make like $140. That's a lot of money compared to what I make, but he's not filthy rich. A lot of doctors, they might look rich, but it's because they've got all this debt and all this other crap. Some of those guys have like $1.2 million in student loan debt, and they look happy and stuff on the surface, but they're paying on that sucker until they're freaking at their 30 years. So don't fall for all of the tricks and stuff like that. Point of this is learn how your money works so that you can grow it so that when your time to retire, you don't have to worry about working anymore. You have 20 good years left before your knees go out and your back goes out, so you can travel around the country and travel around the world or whatever you want to do. All right, hit it. All right, make your money work for you. Investing and protecting your money from taxes. Yeah, so taxes, right? Everybody's like, oh, all these rich people are finding these tax loopholes and they're not paying their fair share and stuff like that. Well, they really do pay their fair share, but they also use the law to their advantage. Did anybody know this right here? Real estate. Your income tax, federal, compounded with the state of North Carolina, is about 29% if you're married. If you're single, it's more. It's like 34%. If you're married, you're paying 30% almost of your paycheck is coming in. Every time you get a paycheck from your employer, it's going to the government. But if you had invested your money into real estate, you only pay 15% taxes. That's a legal loophole. And that goes for the same thing for like businesses. A lot of businesses, because they're paying people taxes, what you don't realize is that the business gets taxed before they pay you. You get double taxed. Your income check, your employer's paying a tax before they write the check, and then after they write the check, you get taxed. So But one advantage, though, that they do give businesses is they get charged less tax overall. And there's a lot of things you can write off. You can write off like your power bill, stuff like that, because you're a business. You're supporting the local economy. Another common way to shelter your taxes, everybody's got one, or hopefully, an IRA, 401k, TSP, whatever you want to call it, that your employer offers that is a long-term savings account that you cannot access until you're 60 years old, whatever it is. How does that money benefit you? Well, we already saw the chart earlier, right? The compound interest chart. If you do it right and you have your stuff set on a life cycle where somebody manages it, or if you have it all invested in the most risky part or whatever, and you're gaining 9% interest, you can turn $100 a month into almost $1 million over the course of 30, 40 years. And the best thing about it, the government doesn't touch it. It's off limits to the government. They can't tax your 401k. The only way they can tax it is when you retire. And when you retire, get this, if you're not working anymore, guess where you fall on the income bracket? Probably the lowest rung, because you're not making any monthly income, right? So when you start drawing from your 401k, they tax it. But your tax bracket is no longer at the 29%. It's at 15% because you're retired, you're not working anymore. So you saved yourself 15% of your $1 million nest egg that you've got in your retirement account. That's the power of the retirement account. Go ahead.
Sir, let's say I get retired and I have the option now I've reached my age. Should I take all my money out and pay my house off, or should I take a monthly annuity?
I would say a better goal is to have your house paid off before you retire. But we can't all do that. But either way you slice it, at that point in your life, you've only got probably 20, 30 years left if you live to be 90, 95, whatever. Either way you slice it, if you pay off the house or you just take an annuity that covers your house payment every month, it's going to kind of shake out pretty close. But me personally, what I would say is you would want to pay off the house first. I would say you'd want to pay off the house first so that you have no monthly payment. Everything else that's coming to you after that is just pure spending money. And after you pay off the house, you could always adjust your annuity to be a longer term or whatever the case may be. So I would probably talk to, I'm not the ultimate source of any of this stuff. I would talk to, like if you do yours through Lincoln Financial or something like that, I would talk to a Lincoln Financial person and say, when you're close to retirement, say, hey, I'm 4 years out. I'm thinking about paying my house off first versus doing an annuity. What do you think about that plan? Or you can even, if you're an Excel whiz, you can kind of set it up yourself. You can play with the Excel and the interest rate and all that stuff and see how it would shake out. So, but just do the research. This is all part of building the foundation, right? Knowing how this stuff works. All right, what should I invest in? Well, what are you interested in? That's what you need to invest in. Even if it's stocks. Maybe you're not super interested in stocks, but you really like video games. And you're like, man, I know that this company is going to be making some awesome games coming up because the PS5 is coming out and the graphics are freakish or whatever the cool stuff is. You say, well, I'm going to take it and I've got $2,000 extra because I've been saving my money because I want to invest in something. I want to put $2,000 into Sony because they make PlayStation, right? Or whatever the game developer is. And you buy 100 shares. And you hold on to that 100 shares that you bought for, I don't know, 20 bucks a share, whatever it is. And then 10 years later, those shares, because now they're on the PS6 and there's so many people playing the games and buying the PlayStation, that all of your shares are worth $40. You doubled your money. That's kind of how the stock market works. And oh, by the way, you'll get dividends every quarter. So Sony, I think they pay like a 60 cent per share dividend right now. So if you owned 100 shares, you'd make, I don't know, what is that, $6? $60? $60 every 3 months, just reinvesting it, or maybe that's your spending money. That's kind of how stocks work. So although you might not be interested in stocks, maybe you're interested in certain things that are on the stock exchange. The other thing you could be interested in is like maybe like I said, 70 is really into this web development stuff. And he's like, man, if I invest $10,000 in myself and I get a webmaster's course and I learn how to do all this stuff and I've got this great idea, I invest that money, and then his company in 10 years is worth $1 million, that $10,000 grew by 1,000%. Is my math wrong? Or is that 10,000%? Whatever it is, it's a lot. It's a lot more than you had before. 10,000 versus $1 million. So that's what I mean by invest in what you're interested in. The next thing, you got to have a 401k. You got to have a retirement account, whatever it is, whether it's a 401k, a 403b, or whatever number and letter combination you can think of. If it's a retirement account, you got to have one. Because like I said, that pension that you're going to get from that steel mill or whatever you're working at, it might not be there when you get there. They might lay everybody off at your 15-year mark. You needed 20 years to be able to get that pension. All right. After that, stocks, bonds are pretty safe. You can buy like a 10-year bond at like a 5.5% interest rate, something like that, from the federal government, from the Treasury. So that's a guaranteed bond. They're going to pay you back. If you hold on to that bond for 10 years, they'll pay you 5.5% on it. That's what bonds really are. In those, you're going to have to go through a bank or really go through like the treasury.gov or whatever website to try to learn more about that. I haven't played with bonds too much. I just know I got one for my mom that she bought for me when I was 5, and I'm trying to cash that thing in. It was only $100, so it's probably not worth much, but you know, that's how bonds work. Over time, you get return on your investment. That's better than a savings account. Real estate. Real estate's a great thing to invest in. So Sarnals, he likes to hunt. And he's like, man, if only I had 50 acres that I could hunt on, but you know, I don't know a whole lot about property, so I'm not really going to develop it, whatever. But let's say he buys that 50 acres because he's been saving all his money and he doesn't really understand stocks or bonds or any of that other garbage, but he wants to do the real estate thing because he wants to go hunt on his 50 acres. 10 years down the road, that 50 acres that he bought for $100,000, they just built an Amazon distribution center right up the street. So now his $100,000 property went up to $200,000. That's what real estate can do. And guess what they're not making any more of? Land, except for China. They're making some. But everybody else in the world, nobody's making land. There's only a little bit. That's a joke. If you read the news, China's been dumping stuff into the ocean, making islands. Yeah, Dubai does it too. But so real estate's a good investment. The other thing, like I said, think if you watch Shark Tank, that's a good show. It's unrealistic for us because we don't have $1 million to invest in somebody for 20% of their company. But they're dealing with people who are already like doing like high regional sales and stuff like that. These are companies that are well established for 10, 15 years sometimes, and they know what they're doing. They've already done a lot of business. They're very valuable companies. But what about Williams ice cream parlor that he set up? Williams wants to open a second ice cream parlor, but he doesn't have the investment to do it just yet. So he goes over to Sprouts. He's like, man, can you lend me $10,000? That'd really get me out of a tight spot. I could open up that second shop and I could grow my sales from $100,000 a year to $200,000 a year. And I'll give you 40% of my company if we ever sell the company, or I'll buy back your shares of the company, you know, in 5 years. That's what I mean by investing in a local business. There's actually websites about it. There's one called Winning Angels. Winning Angels, this website, they are all about small businesses. They're set up in Charlotte. There's one in Raleigh. There's one in Norfolk, Virginia. All these small startup companies, they go on that website and they're like, this is my company. This is what I want to do, but I can't take a loan from a bank. Banks don't really like to give small business loans. Unless you got like a 10-year track record, you're not going to get a very good chance at getting a small business loan from a bank. They give them to established businesses most times. So you go on this website and you say, I need $10,000 worth of investment. Well, Stuart, you could say, I'll put $2,000 in there. and Kennedy will put $2,000 in. Wallen will. Everybody invests together. At 5 years, that company buys back all the shares. That's kind of how that works. Sometimes there's risk in it though. The company could go under. There's ways of losing money. But if you never take a risk, if you've got the extra financial disposable income, instead of buying Taco Bell, you buy into a company, you have a big chance at getting a big return. That's what that's all about. All right, go ahead. All right, how else, other than those things that I just listed off, those generic things, how can I make my money work for me? Well, one I already said, is start a business. Clark has his F650 business that he hauls things around with. He puts that business under an LLC and he gets liability insurance on himself. Well, what else can he do with that LLC? What did I say earlier? You could put some things under your business, right? That's how the rich person wasn't paying all those extra expenses. Did you know you could put 300 square feet of your house as an office space? So if you got a $1,000 a month mortgage for a 1,200 square foot house, what's that? $250 a month. You can charge it to your business. And the business doesn't pay taxes until you pull money out of it. That's how you hide your money under the shell of a business. If you leave the money in the business and you don't take any money out of it, you don't get taxed. As soon as you take money out of it, it's income tax. You're paying yourself an income. So you can pay a lot of expenses tax-free out of a business. That's where people are complaining about all these loopholes and stuff like that. It's all legal. It's a loophole. But those businesses employ 10 or 15 people and they're paying their taxes for their income. So, you know, they are paying some taxes. All right. Like I already said, corporations and LLCs get taxed a lot less than what you do for an individual income. Take a vacation under your business, right? There's something you can write off. You want to take your family to Hawaii. Well, you and your wife are the board members of your LLC. You're going for a board meeting, not a family vacation. That's one thing you can write off as taxes. Another thing, if you've got a home office, 300 square feet, you're already writing off part of your mortgage. Why don't you write off part of your power bill, your internet bill, whatever else? Your insurance, your liability insurance is getting paid out of there before taxes. Maybe your life insurance. Maybe your business's health benefits include paying your health insurance and your life insurance for you. So that's not coming out of your income. Those are all things you can do. Your car payment. You got a company vehicle. Your company pays for it. Go ahead.
Or would that also like if you're a student, also a tax write-off, like whatever place that you use in your house? Like I talked to my accountant and she told me like if you're full-time, like even if you're a part-time student, whatever you use for school is a tax write-off.
Yep. Yeah. So that's a good point. Even as a student, you get better tax benefits than just your average Joe. So, but the more you learn, the more you can save yourself. That's where that foundation comes in. And you should know it for every walk of where you're at. There's another health benefit, a gym membership. If you pay $80 a month for a gym or $100 a month for you and your wife, whatever it is, why not write that into your company clause that you're going to pay a health benefit for a gym membership for your employees? You're your own employee. You pay your own gym membership before you ever have to pay anything out of your income that you're taking. So that's how you can make a company make your money work for you, make your money more valuable. Because after you've received your money, you've already paid taxes on it. It's less valuable after you've got taxes taken out of it. All right, go ahead. We're almost done, guys. I know it's hot. I know it's loud. It's hard to hear in here. Treat yourself. This is the top rung of the ladder, the top of the pyramid, if you will. Anybody watch this show? They do some crazy stuff. Yeah, Parks and Rec. When they treat themselves, they wear like these velvet robes. They go get like martinis while they're getting their feet done and whatever else they've done. It's a pretty good show if you've ever seen it. But this is the top of the ladder. This is where you're doing all the right things and you got extra money in your pocket. You do what you want to do. Good. All right, so pay yourself. this is where, remember before, we pay into our retirement, you pay yourself first. You pay yourself first into your retirement, but when you get to the top, you can pay yourself more than what your retirement is. So that's spending money. And remember from the first slide, the bigger the foundation is, the more money you're going to have left over. If you've paid off all the debt and you're not paying a $500 a month car payment and a $200 a month credit card, you got $700 extra that month that you can spend on whatever you want to spend it on. I would advise you to take $200 of it and put it into a more aggressive 401k or whatever. Save a little bit more aggressively so that instead of retiring with $1 million, you retire with $3 million. But you see my point. You can pay yourself a little bit more into your future, and you can pay a little bit more now to have fun, buy a more expensive vehicle, whatever you want. As long as you're not poking holes back in the boat by going out and getting a car payment, you save up some cash, $700 a month, you save up for 2 years, you can probably buy a $20,000 car cash, $30,000 car cash, without ever having to go back into debt. All you got to do is drive that clunker around a little bit longer. And clunkers these days, anybody had like a really, really old car? My first car was a 1986 Chevy Cavalier. The hood was smashed in, completely smashed in. It didn't even latch down anymore. I had to drill holes in it and put little posts in it and put cotter pins through. Yeah, because the hood wouldn't stay down. That thing only cost me $200, but it got me around for years. And the next car that I bought after that, I saved up the money for that. It was like a 2003 Mitsubishi Lancer, 2002, 2003. It wasn't the high-speed Evolution or whatever. It was just a regular Lancer. It was only $7,000. Bought it for cash. Well, back up. I did take a loan out on it at first, and then when I realized that I was spending $300 a month on a loan, I had the cash in my account. I was like, why would I do that? Why would I pay all that interest, $7,000 a month over 5 years equals $8,500 I'm going to pay for the car? So I was like, I'll just pay it off. So that's how you do your stepping stones. You drive that $7,000 car around for 2 years while you're saving $700 a month. You could probably buy yourself a nice little $20-something thousand car that's semi-used, maybe not brand new, but it's going to have everything that you ever needed in it. And it's going to be just as nice. So, like I said, you can't build a skyscraper on a foundation for your house that you're going to build in the burbs. It's going to fall over. So, you want to live on the top of a skyscraper, you want to live the high life, you got to have a strong foundation first. You can't go partying like you're living in a skyscraper when you're living on a foundation that's your parents' basement size. Like I said at the beginning, the foundation is what? Income and your financial knowledge. Know how to spend your money, know how to make your money do some of the work for you, know how to protect your money. All those good things are part of your financial base. And then, last note, I already said this probably 5 times, but before you spend any money, you got to pay into your future first. Pay into your retirement first. Keep more of your money. That's a pretty good picture. All right, go ahead. All right. I thought this was a pretty good picture too, because financial freedom there in the middle. These are all the things that we just pretty much talked about. Reduce your expenses, have a plan, save your money, find out a way. That's what passive income is. Find a way to make your money work for you. That's what passive income is. One good example of that is like ATM machines. Did you know you could buy an ATM machine? You can buy an ATM machine and pay like a $20 fee to set it up on like the satellite per month, and the company will like manage your machine for you, tell you when it's low on cash, all that stuff. That's passive income. Not really passive because you're still paying for it. You still have to buy the machine, stuff like that. You still have to go off the machine and load money into it. But that's an example of like a small business that you could start. You could buy an ATM machine for $1,200, pay a $20 a month fee, and charge 99 cents for every time somebody withdraws it, or $3 for every time. Or if you're in like one of those fancy nightclubs with girls that are all dressed up and stuff, they charge like $10 or $15. So go ahead. I can't hear you. Yeah, but I'm just using that as an example. That's what passive income means. Passive income could also be an rental property. You own a duplex. You live in one half, you rent the other half. You're making money off of it. Your property is no longer, your home mortgage is no longer dragging you down. It's now an asset. It's in your asset column, which gives you money in your income column. Good.
So is there like a certain website that you need to like look up for like passive income?
I mean, there's all kinds of blogs and things like that. Just type it into Google and you can read about passive income. Don't believe all the hype about it, because passive income isn't just like, oh, I'm going to set up a website and sell some t-shirts and I'm not going to have to do anything, it's just going to make me money. No, you still need to put time into it. It's not really passive, but that's what it is. It's how do you make money on your money is what passive income is. You still have to put the time in to make t-shirt designs, and you still have to put the time in to buy Google ads, so that when people are scrolling through Google and they've been looking up Hello Kitty and you got a Hello Kitty shirt, when they like look up Hello Kitty gear, your ad pops up into Google. So you still have to do some work. It's not really passive, but that's what the term really kind of is synonymous with. It's having like a business plan, pretty much. Or stocks are a good kind of passive income, because stocks, yeah, you can do like some day trading and like get all cool or whatever, but the chance of you being the next high-speed venture capitalist, whatever, who made $10,000 turn into $1 million off of just a few trades, that's very low. You're not going to do that. Most people that are in the stock market, they started very small at an early age, and they've accumulated interest off of all of those stocks over a long period of time, and now they're making a whole lot of money because they got $100 million in there, and their dividends equal $150,000 a year now. So that's their income. That's their passive income. But none of you have $200 million to put into stocks right now to make that income. So you're going to have to do some work. But, yep. So I'll leave it at that. Is there any questions?